I asked all of you if you had one question that could be answered in your trading, what would it be? I took the most popular questions and the ones I also thought were most important to be addressed here, and I'm going to be answering them in this video. This is going to be a completely unscripted video. It's a one-on-one talk with me to you behind that camera, and we are just going to go through all of the things that I believe you should be knowing and understanding in your trading to be able to progress to the level that you're looking to get to. And we're going to get started with the first one, which I do think is fitting for the first question, is what made you keep going when you weren't sure if trading would work? There is a lot of different things when it comes to the world of trading. Now, for myself, I think I came at it from a different perspective. Initially, when I got into trading, like why did I trade in the first place? It was simply to make money. There was no other intent with what I was doing. I was younger, and I think I was lucky to catch it at this time, but I got into trading around 2020. Of course, when the market starts picking up volatility, there's a lot of talk around the markets and the opportunity that's there. And that drew me into wanting to get into trading because people are making quick money. The market's moving very fast. It's going up after that big drop of that pandemic. And I'm like, I want a piece. And initially I did make money. It was really any stock you would buy, even if it had hype around it, would just go up, and it was great. And then I eventually found options trading. That's where things got a little bit irresponsible, I would say. And I started losing real money because I was just trading on a personal account. I was throwing my money in there and hammering the market without even having a system or a real understanding of what I was doing. But I did, through time and through that process, when I wanted to say, okay, this is not responsible. This is not going to work long term because I'd make a lot of money here and then lose a lot of money there. And it's clearly not consistent. And then I got to a point where this is not something I can sustain. So I'm either going to stop trading completely, I'm going to leave the markets, or I'm going to actually look at and find a system, start learning the proper things to do this correctly. And through that process, I decided not to drop trading. Obviously, I'm here now, and start looking into real systems. And at that point, when I started doing things more responsibly and more structured, I found a real passion for the charts itself. Meaning I would get into trading. Everything that I did, when I executed, when I made a mistake, when I learned something new, I built a real passion around that. And that's something that I believe is really important because that passion brought me through everything else in my trading. If I didn't have that, if I didn't feel that really deep connection of wanting to get better in trading, then I don't think I would still be here doing it today. That passion is a really important point that I think if you don't have it, it's really tough to make it through those early stages in trading. Because while I loved what I was doing, I continued to make a lot of mistakes. I took a lot of losses. I took a lot of hits. And the only thing that made me show up that next day was simply the passion and the love for wanting to get better at this specific skill. So I brought a competitive nature, and that always brought me back. And I think if you don't have that, if you get into trading thinking I am simply here for the outcome of making money, trading itself is not a skill that I have that passion to get better in, then it's not going to work out, because that money that you're seeking and that only reason you're trading, it's not going to show up immediately. It may not be a year. It may not be in 2 years. If you don't get that immediate result, then you're just not going to show up when things inevitably get really difficult. So that passion is what kept me going. And then we have that background drive of not wanting to work for someone, wanting to make money, being in something that is uncapped. Your potential is truly uncapped in trading. It's all about yourself. And I have a lot of independence. I'm really confident in what I do. So trading was an amazing path, but ultimately that passion is what kept me going through any time that was tough, in especially those early stages. The next question is, how would you get into a disciplined mentality to stick to the plan? I can't resist hitting the buttons. This is such a common question, and it's a common struggle for a lot of traders. And when it comes to myself, why I'm now, and a lot of people know me for this, and this is one of my greatest strengths, is being able to watch the market and do absolutely nothing when I don't need to be. Because the biggest part of trading that a lot of people don't realize is they are simply self-sabotaging their own trading. It's not the market's fault. It's not your system's fault. It's the decisions that you're making when you instead should have been doing nothing at all. And early on, I of course had these issues of trading itself, being really active in the markets every single day, looking for a trade. So there's a really big difference here between going into the market, waiting for it to provide your system versus going into the market, looking for a trade. Looking for a trade means you are showing up to the market every single day and seeing what money can I pull from the market. And that's whether the market is aligned with your system. Doesn't matter if the market is in an unfavorable condition, if it's been in a consolidation, or if it's been extremely volatile. You are not taking any of those factors into consideration, and you are simply going into the market thinking, how can I pull this outcome and pull money from the market? That doesn't work, and that creates impulsiveness, that creates a lack of consistency, and all negative things exist when you are approaching it that way. Versus I am now in a state where I look at the market and I'm not trying to predict where it goes every single day. I really don't care about that. I go into the market and say, today is my system, is what I understand, what can make me money because I've proven it to myself. Is that on the charts, or is that even a possibility that it could develop on this current trading day? And if it aligns, then I trade. If the market doesn't offer it, I end the day completely, because I know through time, this gets into the point of how do you now have the ability to stick to your plan? It's because in the past years, the amount of times that my setup wasn't on the chart and I continued to trade, I lost money. And you can only do that so many times before you realize and say, okay, it's uncomfortable to wait sometimes, but continuing to trade doesn't make money. I'm losing money for no apparent reason. So while it may be uncomfortable or boring or whatever it makes you feel, you realize that there's no logic, there's no reason to be trading in the first place, and your plan and your system is all that truly matters. It doesn't matter if someone else trades a different way because they're going to be hitting different moves. It doesn't matter if your friend caught a move that you missed. All these external factors that are swaying your decisions should not be real to you. You have a defined system that you trust and understand, and you are willing to wait for that opportunity to align in the market because you know that's what's going to make you money. There's this thing where a lot of people view trading as this hobby, and when it's a hobby to you, you are chasing that excitement, that action, those decisions, versus when it's a job, you realize there's going to be periods of it being boring, repetitive, but ultimately that's what's consistent. And when you treat it like a job, it's going to become your job, versus most people will treat it like a hobby, and that's why it's nothing more than a hobby for them. The third question is, I'm currently at the break-even stage. How did you mentally deal with this, and what did you do to push through? This is a question I wanted to address because a lot of people are at that stage when you are hovering around break-even, and this is that stage where a lot of people make the mistake of, I'm a break-even trader and I have to completely revamp my system. I have to do all these new things, add this here, do this there. That is the huge mistake, because if you're break-even, that likely means you have a defined system, you are strict in risk management, but there are some small, very, very small tweaks that you need to make in your trading. And this could look different for all different types of people. I've worked with traders for a long time, and I have a lot of experience teaching traders. And one thing I'll always tell them, well, one, you should be journaling. If you have a journal, go into that journal, because the big thing with a break-even trader is they're likely taking good winning trades, but they take too many losses that they shouldn't be taking in the first place. So where can we filter these things out? And we go into the journal and see if there's any outliers in their data. This is great if you're collecting in some type of Notion journal where it's feeding you back data. If you're using a software, that's even better because it's going to give you so much. But let's say you have a pretty consistent strategy, you take good winning trades, but you're around that break even. I would go into your journal and look for any outliers, any really negative outliers in your performance, and say, where is this occurring? So I've done this with traders plenty of times before. And one example would be, I would look at someone's stats and they trade really well on every single day of the week. But suddenly on Friday, it's extremely negative. They take very few winning trades. All their losses are concentrated on that day. And their system they would show that on Friday, because of the way that they were approaching the market, there was too many options to consider. It was very unclear, and it relatively didn't deliver well for the type of system that they were using. So simply removing Friday from their trading, removing those losses, not changing anything else. That's a very small change. You just remove trading on this day, and suddenly they go from a break-even trader to now making profits because they're removing unnecessary losses in their process. Now, there can be a wide range of these things. You'll have to figure that out yourself. It's easier if someone can go through that with you and explain what that may be. But realize if you're at a break-even stage, you are doing better than the majority of the crowd. And there's likely a very small change that you need to make to break through to that other side. The real mistake is being break-even and then making drastic changes, and you just completely throw off all the progress that you made to that point. Now moving on to the fourth question, which is, what is the most common mistake that new traders make that stops them from becoming profitable? I'm actually going to give 3 different points on this. This may be a little bit of a longer answer because there's a few things that will add up here to things that I've seen because I've worked with many traders that are at that beginning stage, and I can see where they're going wrong, and I will just share what my experience has been with that, and also coming from myself as well. And the first, this is before you even get into trading, it's setting the right expectations. This is where your mindset gets barred from what is the reality of trading because your expectations are so wildly unrealistic when you first get into trading. And it just becomes a trap when those expectations are inevitably not met because you realize trading is not what it seemed. And a lot of people will come into trading thinking that, one, it's going to be easy, that they don't have to put in work. And that is a wild misconception because maybe some people on social media when they got into trading were pushing that this was supposed to be simple. And it's not. It can be simple, but it's really, really difficult. That is the reality of trading. And people will just not put in the necessary time and work. They become too frustrated because they thought it was going to be easy, and that leads them to not putting in the work. Not putting in the work does not lead to results. Not getting results makes them quit trading. It's just this cycle. Trading, a lot of times, people will come into it with trading. They want the freedom of trading. So let's take, for example, someone who starts a business. People will see that from the outside and say, look at the freedom they have because their business is automated and they have all these systems in place and the owner can now step back and live a freedom life. People want the freedom of owning a business and trading, but they won't put in the necessary work for years and years to build up the structure of that business. The same thing goes for salary-wise. People get into trading because they want a high salary. They want that uncapped large salary from trading and the profits that you make. In the same way, they want a doctor's or a surgeon's salary, yet they wouldn't put in the years of work before, they wouldn't put in the hours of studying that it would require to get that same degree or that job as a doctor. But you're trying to get an equivalent salary, like you're trying to take shortcuts that aren't real. It's the same thing with trading. If your expectations are set wrong initially, you're just not going to make it when you realize that the work that is needed to be put in and the time is a lot greater than what you expected. The second mistake that prevents traders from becoming profitable is very similar to what I talked about before, with their inability to do nothing and not realizing that opportunity in the market is not this linear, consistent thing. The market cycles in and out of times where for yourself and your system, it's going to be very active and there's a lot of opportunity. And then maybe for a few weeks or even months, it goes into a slow period and you have to adjust. Most traders are not prepared for that, or they may not even realize that that's a factor in trading. So first, being able to understand that not doing anything and waiting in trading is 95% of the work. That's something that you have to get down because there is not a single system that is going to work 100% of the time. Yet, if you're going to the charts every day looking for a trade, then of course you're going to be losing for no apparent reason because you're pushing your edge when it's not actually existing in the market. That's a big part, is where we have to be comfortable waiting. It's just a rule of trading, and you wait as long as your system is not offered on the charts. So if your system is there in the market, then you have a trade opportunity. If it's not there, whether it's one day, whether it's 2 days, whether it's a week, and it's not on the charts, you don't press buttons because you're bored. This is your job. You're trying to make it a career. It's not something that's going to be fun all the time. So if it takes a week for your next setup to appear, then so be it. You wait. And you have to be comfortable with that, regardless of what's going on around you, because you're going to see someone trading a different system, or someone you know that doesn't trade like you or isn't thinking like you. They are going to be taking trades when you're waiting, and you're going to think that you're doing something wrong. You're not. You're following your plan, and you have to be so grounded and so comfortable in doing that, because these unnecessary losses, they chip away. And in those times when you're trading, when you know you shouldn't be, that's when you open up that possibility of making really large mistakes. These blow up days where everything goes wrong. It's because one little mistake in compound, saying, I shouldn't be trading today, but whatever, I'll throw a little bit of risk. Oh, this setup looks okay, I'm going to throw more risk. And then you just start doing this snowball effect of small mistakes building on each other, and suddenly you've just blown up your account for the progress you've just made the past 3 months in a day, when you should have just done nothing. That is the reality, and you need to be very confident in yourself and trust your system at every step of the way. And the third point I'm going to mention here is a lot of things that a newer trader may not realize about trading. And it's that regardless of what system you trade, if you are making decisions, meaning I have to press a buy button, I have to press the sell button, you are trading under a system where your experience and your intuition is at play. So no matter how mechanical or rule-based a system can get, your experience with that particular system is going to affect how well you trade it. This is something that you may start to see if you have a lot of time in the markets, or if you're really new, you may not understand this yet. But when you trade the same system, and I mean the same system, making very small tweaks over time, you are going to get better through experience. You build up this intuition that really can't be explained, but that's where your real strength lies. And a lot of people will make the mistake of jumping from system to system. They try something for a month, it doesn't work, and they change to a new thing. And it's this brutal cycle of never making real progress, because the real amazing part of a system is not that first few weeks when you begin to learn it. You may find something that resonates with you initially, but the real magic happens when you've been working with the same system for 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, and you suddenly build up this bank of experience and this intuition when you look for the same thing in the market for such a long time, that's your real strength, because you just do things that are beyond a basic understanding. And that's where you can act really well and have really good discretion in the market, especially when you rely on that. So I would just tell people to not jump strategies all the time. If you're looking for instant gratification, it's not going to exist. You're not going to learn something in a week and suddenly you're a profitable trader. That's just not how these things work. You want a defined system, something that is structured and you know will work, but be very patient in the process. It may take months to years to build up that very good experience, but once you get past that threshold and you've been working with it for some time, then you really get to see the benefit, and your understanding is going to surpass anything that you can learn from any other system. So that's what I would say. Stick with one thing, get really good at that one thing, and your experience and intuition will take you way farther than any other concept or thing that you could learn that's out there. The next question, and I really like this question because I have some specific things to talk about here, is how can you make your trading day full when trading only takes 2 hours or maybe even less? So 2 hours, yes, is a potential on a day that you may be looking to trade, but there are certain days in trading where I will open up the charts. Maybe you do this as well. And I can say my system is one, not on the charts right now, so I can't be trading, but also there's no potential for my setup to occur in the market today. So my day may last 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it may be. So there are days where trading itself, when I talked about doing nothing, that is part of your process and plan, is very short. It's very short-lived. It may be only a few minutes to maybe a few hours a day. And what should you be doing to fill the rest of that time? And the main point I want to drive home with this, and this ties into everything that I've been talking about, is the work that you put in is not actively on the charts when you are looking to put on trades. It's outside of the market. The amount of time you should be allocating, it should almost be a 80-20 or a 90-10 split, because when you're trading, it should be very specific. You know what you're looking for, you execute when it's there, you wait when it's not. And it's that process over and over again. And it's very simple and well defined. But you don't want to do that and simply go through the motions, meaning there's no trade, my day's over, I'm going to show up tomorrow. Or I took a trade, my day's over, I'm going to show up tomorrow again. That's going through the motions, and that's where you're going to plateau if you're doing that. I want you to be very detached when you are executing and make that process very structured. But when you are done with that, maybe after an hour, maybe even a few minutes of the trading day, if you don't have a trade, you should still be spending your time. This is where you want to do the majority of your work outside of the charts. That could be looking into content if you are trying to build on your system. That may be journaling past trades. That may be looking back on opportunities that you did or didn't take. Because even when you spend a day saying, I'm not trading, that is an active decision. Doing nothing is part of your plan. So you want to even journal that later in the day, meaning I did nothing today. So I'm going to say, was that the right decision? Or did I skip out on a day when my setup actually was in the charts? So anything you do, you want to be reviewing these things. You want to be studying content if you are trying to learn a system. You want to be going back and past price action, doing back testing. I'm a big advocate for that. And it doesn't even have to be with a back testing software. It can be, I go in TradingView, I'm going back and past price action, and I am building my eye for the setup that I'm looking for. You can fill your time with all of these things and just becoming a better trader. That's where all your work should be. And then when you actually get into the charts, when you're looking to trade, that process should be very simple and straightforward. And I'm going to go over one last question in this video, and that is one mistake that if you could have avoided in trading then in the past, what would it be? If you are a progressing trader, or you're maybe even new to the space of trading and you're watching this video right now as I speak from me to you, please take what I said previously in this video very seriously. One mistake that I made is that I did not get connected to good education or people that told me the reality of trading earlier on. And that costed me years and years of progress of doing all of the wrong things, learning the wrong strategies or the wrong approach and process to the markets, gambling in the markets earlier on, trying to make quick money because I had the wrong expectations of what this really was. And I wasted a lot of time and money doing these things. And I had no one telling me that I was doing it wrong or that I should be doing otherwise. So if you are watching this now, I am telling you, and I really want you to truly take in what I mentioned before with setting your expectations right, being willing to put in the work, understanding that waiting is a part of trading, knowing that learning a strategy is not about the foundational concepts, it's about applying it over time and building that experience, because that's what makes a model great. And all of these things brought together. These are the realities of trading that I wish someone had told me when I first started, because I would have been in a completely different place. It wouldn't have taken me as long as it did, and I wouldn't have lost as much money at the start if someone had shown me the proper way of doing this correctly. So that's the piece of advice that I would leave you on, is that if you watch this video, truly, in the most genuine way, take in what I'm sharing with you, because it's from real experience. And I talk with traders every single day of all different levels, from people that just started trading and know nearly nothing, to break-even traders, to people who just got their first payout and are doing 5-figure months, to people that are on the top of the game. I've spoken with every single person, and I'm telling you, this is the reality of trading. And if you can approach it in the right way as early as possible, starting correctly, that is going to set the foundation for you to truly grow and become the consistent trader that you are looking to be.